First introductions. Hi, my name is Paul Larsen. I'm a program manager back at Microsoft in Redmond, and one of those odd people at Microsoft. I was actually born and raised in Seattle. So for me, it's like the Mount Everest, because at the time, Google wasn't there. Been at Microsoft for something like a long time, gray hair, 20-something years. With me today is Steve.
I'm Steve Melan. I'm working at the States and Government Bank of Luxembourg. I'm now for the 4th year in a row an MVP. And I've started working with Paul in 2005 for putting AJS in place in our bank. And since then, we've done all the migrations together, finding new features, and enhancing the product.
So a little bit about why we're talking. We really tried, this is my clock right here, so I left my watch at home. We asked Chris, we asked Jeff, we asked Nino, of course, if they would present this information, and they all declined, unfortunately. Chris said it's legacy. Jeff said, I already have enough sessions I've done. And Nino says, no, I'm preparing for my session this afternoon, although I don't think he needs to prepare.
Yeah.
And we're really the experts. So Steve is our expert in the field. He's a real live customer. He's also our MVP. And he's available to our customers for customer-to-customer references. He'll go on site and talk to our customers. So if you're a partner or a customer, engage with Steve. He'll do it for you. And I'm the IBM guy at Microsoft. I think I'm the person who's been in Redmond working on IBM stuff the longest. So I know a little bit about this. It makes it easy for me to talk about it. So although not everyone in the audience has an IBM heritage system, for our solution provider partners and even for our end customers, you may encounter one of these systems one day. And they're not so much legacy as something that our enterprises value, but the key message here is Microsoft invests quite heavily in connecting to IBM systems because they're valuable to our enterprise customers, and we value our enterprise customers. We want to support them in any way we can. We want their existing workloads to be modernized in place with new solutions based on BizTalk Server, Azure, Logic Apps. We also want to let our customers migrate workloads over time, and we have facilities for that as well. When you look at the IBM system on the right side and the Microsoft systems on the left side, HIS sits in between them. It can be on a desktop, on a device like ATM's a big part of our business. It could be on a server running a gateway, doing systems network architecture or SNA protocol conversion. SNA, silly names and acronyms. And you see all those acronyms on the right side there. There's no Microsoft code on the right side. It's all IBM. There's no IBM code on the Microsoft stack. That's our ideal world. We use open, standard, and IBM proprietary protocols and formats in the middle. So we'll handle data conversion, code page conversion, and date-time formatting in international locales. Okay? That's kind of the primer. The catch-all for this is that there's really 3 buckets of technology. There's a network infrastructure modernization. We have our gateways and our servers for like screen scraping. We have our clients that run on the desktop and our emulators, things like that. There's the data layer where we have data clients and providers like ADO.NET and BizTalk adapters and connectors that we're going to talk about. And then we have our messaging and program layer where we do more sophisticated things like transaction integration and calling KICS programs and IMS.
And MQ.
And MQ. Why do I forget MQ? MQ is actually one of the most popular adapters for BizTalk. And as John noted, it's right there in the top 5 list for cloud connectors, for Logic Apps, and as Chris mentioned, for Flow apps as well, if you decide to expose those to your end users. But before we get into the technology and provide our demonstrations of the new things, I want to give Steve a chance to explain why he's here, why HIS is valuable, how he looks at Microsoft as an enterprise customer and MVP. Steve?
Yeah, so as I've spoken before, I'm working for the States and Government Bank in Luxembourg. We started in 2005 taking all our existing COBOL programs, our DB2 databases, VSAM staff, all the old things, and we would like to modernize the infrastructure. The infrastructure was very old. The only applications we had have been 3270 emulation programs, so black screens with very black colors, only green colors on the screen, so it's very old-fashioned. And our customers and even our internal guys would have more modern applications. And so we started looking around what is on the market. There have been IBM products to do it by WebSphere. There have been even HIS to do it with Visual Studio. And for us, it was very a niche product on the market, HIS. So we took the product, we tested it together with Microsoft on place, how to put it actually in the architecture. And so we would like not only to rewrite everything, but we would like to integrate it in our company infrastructure. We have still mainframes, still our old COBOL programs that have been developed in the early 90s that we actually would like always now still to reuse, because a lot of the people have developed these programs already retired. So we have still to reuse the programs, modernize them with a great new application. And that's why we are actually using Visual Studio to create modern applications using the new modern platform. We're also using ASP.NET. We're using a lot of new technologies, but still together with our old mainframe. And that's why I've started in 2005 after university at the bank to put HIS in place. And now we are running more than 10 million transactions, so 6 million approximately KICS transactions through HIS, and also 4 million DB2 requests through HIS a day. And we're not only using HIS, but we're using also BizTalk for the complete swift integration of the Luxembourgish banks and Luxembourgish fintechs. Our bank is one of the 10 most safest banks in the world, rated every year. We are also one of the most important banks in the world, even if we are small, but we are still one of the most important banks.
Yeah, so although the number of transactions per day doesn't represent the top tier of our Microsoft customers and IBM Host Integration Server customers, Steve's usage is fairly unique in that he's using virtually everything that we have in our stable of technologies and tools, with the exception of access to vSAM. They moved to DB2 as their primary store. So it makes a great partnership for us. We've talked about that a lot throughout the day, about giving direct customer feedback. I get more than enough feedback from Steve here. Even as we're back here preparing our demos and walking through them, feedback all the time. So I really appreciate that. So we want to talk about first MQ, because it's very popular in the BizTalk world, and we believe it'll be popular as well for logic apps. And what we have done in this release of Host Integration Server 2016, which will be released with BizTalk Server 2016, they're both on the same schedule, so you can get this now on Microsoft Connect, our CTP1 code. We also have been updating it monthly. We're at CTP 1.1, 1.2 is this month. In CTP 1.1, we introduced a new Microsoft client for MQ. We've actually implemented the MQ protocol ourselves. How many people are using MQ? Wow.
Oh, quite a
few. That's a lot. That's more than last year. That's our expectation as well. About 30% of the enterprises with whom I work use MQ exclusively for cross-machine boundary interaction. So file transfer as well as messaging, transactional, non-transactional. Just that's the pipe that's being used. And also, of course, B2B, business to government for Swift and things like that.
Yep.
So our new client sits here in the bottom, stacked on the left side. You can see the IBM client remains for the MQ server adapter in BizTalk. It remains for the WCF channel. But what we've done is we've taken the BizTalk adapter for MQSC, the client adapter. We've kept the support for IBM. We've added support to the new Microsoft.NET client. The Microsoft.NET client is exactly that. It's all .NET. Okay? So it's a full .NET stack, which gives us at least 30% improvement in performance, and we'll see when Steve does some testing. And then, of course, on the back-end system, it's MQ running everywhere. So with that, I'd like to have Steve do a demo, or we'll switch boxes.
Yep. Quickly.
And that is correct. Good.
I hope that
Yeah, you're displaying. Yep.
screen
That's
is
good.
there.
Yep.
Cool. This is Outlook for mainframes. No, this is actually the screen. Who knows actually still the old ISPF screen? Is there somebody here that still knows the old ISPF? Yeah, cool. I have prepared a demo to show you what quite easily it is to use the IBM client or the Microsoft client. I have prepared a small application here, which is first, I would like to do a put using the IBM client, and also afterwards I'm doing a put using the Microsoft client. And we will compare the IBM retail client, which is the latest one, the 8.0.0.4, and we would also like to test the Microsoft client, which is still in CTP1. But to do this quite cool, I'm running this 1,000 times against IBM, and then I'm running this 1,000 times against the Microsoft client to see what is actually the difference in performance. So running the program here, 1,000 runs, it would take approximately, for those who know IBM client, for 1,000 put messages, it would take approximately 12 seconds. I hope so. It's some kind of working, it's working.
So,
okay, it took 20 seconds. We check Microsoft client. It should be faster. Paul told us at least 3 times faster.
30%, yeah.
30%.
Well, yeah. Because we're not doing any COM interop, we're not doing interoperability at all. It's all .NET. In fact, Steve is calling the .NET exposed interface that we offer to you to be able to call our .NET client from any application you want.
But, oh, no, it's still the same.
What?
Performance.
Well, the whole thing seems slower. It's about twice as slow as it was when we were running through it a minute ago.
Yeah.
What have you done?
Yeah, but I would like to be honest with IBM. So what I did is,
I took the
Microsoft client and to give them a chance, I put also sleep inside.
Okay. All right.
Because otherwise it would be too fast. So the thing is here, I put for each message, I put a sleep of 10 milliseconds, which gives us 10 seconds. So I rerun this once again. I'm commenting it out once again. Perhaps now the IBM client is even faster because it's perhaps in cache or the assemblies have already been loaded by IBM. It could be faster now. It could be around 12 until 20 seconds. But afterwards we will see the Microsoft client and then it should be faster. Okay, it will run.
By running this 1,000 times, we're trying to avoid any preference in terms of cache on the server side.
To give everybody a chance. So we have been here 22 seconds approximately for 1,000 messages put in a queue, and the Microsoft is only 4 or at least 5 seconds. So you can see the performance is really better, and it's still in CTP1. And what is the most amazing thing about the client of Microsoft is the tracing. You can see immediately what is going wrong. On the IBM client, you have different layers. You have, for example, the .NET layer, you have the C++ layer, you have the Java layer, and stuff like that. And when there's, for example, something crashing, you have to find out which layer is crashing in order to find where is the issue coming from. And here, everything is .NET. You can see it quite easily. And we're taking a look at the code. For example, I'm taking here the code of their Microsoft client. You're creating an instance of the queue manager, which is quite easy to do. You're doing a connect. You're specifying the queue. You open the queue for a send. Quite easy. Then you put here the message. You create a new message. And then you tell him which is the reply to queue. You take the content of the message by taking, for example, the bytes. You're sending the message, and you're closing the queue, and you're disconnecting from the queue manager. That's all. And the same thing, you're doing exactly the same thing with the IBM. So there's nothing new about it. So for example, in the IBM client, you have to specify the properties first, the queue manager, the queue, and do the same thing. So the code is almost the same. So when you would like to do a migration, the code is still the same. And the advantage is that this thing is also included in the BizTalk console. Here, I'm going to the BizTalk console, as you know it already. I'm going to receive location, an MQSC receive location, but this time it's not pointing to the IBM client, but this time I'm using the MS-DOS client, no, the Microsoft client. So actually, you can take your actual BizTalk receive location, which is pointing to an MQ. Out of the box, it will be the IBM client for migration, and then afterwards you can switch it on and using the Microsoft client. And you have immediately better performance.
Thank you, Steve. And I appreciate the applause on the performance. We put our most senior developer on the MQ client implementation to devise a protocol and implement it. And then one of our newest developers who thinks of Microsoft as MS did this as well. So good team.
So the other sample I would like to show is I'm now cleaning up a little bit my my box, here my MQ box, because I have 4,000 messages inside. Only the console of IBM is not so good working, because right-click is not always working as it should be. I try my best. It's always the same problem with the console. It's not always working right-click.
So just a reminder, if you downloaded CTP1, when we
it's
released BizTalk and HIS 2016 CTP1, the MQ BizTalk adapter was not updated to support the Microsoft client. That's something we did just last month. And then we've made some additional changes this month to make it easier to switch between the two of them efficiently without any issues.
Perfect. Now I have only 2 messages inside my queue, as we can see here. Normally, after refreshing, he will pop up here and show me that there are 2 messages inside of the queue. You can see it here, actually 2 messages inside the queue. I'm using here a very basic BizTalk application. I have here receive location. I have here my send port. A send port is only filtering on the receive port of my receive location. Then I would like to activate this one here, start it, looking at the folder, nothing is in there. I'm going to the location, I'm activating it here, easily enable, and the messages should come up here shortly if my host instance is running. And this one is not running yet, so I'm running my host instances, and the messages should come up shortly, hope so. And there they are. We can take a look at them, and you can see here is a message, hello from the MQ server from Microsoft, once again, and the other one was the message I've put it in with the IBM client from the IBM. So everything is inside. You can see here the message that correctly been gathered from the IBM server.
Cool, thank you, Steve. So new code, all .NET, much easier for us to develop. Much easier for you to utilize in terms of tracing and logging. That's all done with standard .NET listeners. And it's the same infrastructure that we're now using to develop the MQ connector for Azure. And there was actually some commonality between the MQ connector we did last year for Azure and Logic Apps V1 as an API app, and the new connector we're doing as well. So this, we learned some things last year. We're adapting this code to support the new adapter runtime model that we're using for Logic Apps V2, and we're going to fast track this to make it available for the Logic App team as soon as they need it, which means we're developing it right now, as fast as we can. So switching to the data stack, just up from the bottom on that slide I presented, we have a new .NET client for DRDA. That's the industry standard protocol for DB2, Informix, and other data sources. So we have this new DB2 client and Informix client, and looking at the DB2, it's on the left side there. So we're taking the BizTalk adapter, our NDD provider, and something new, a Power BI connector that supports Excel data sources, Power Pivot, Power Query, something we've really wanted to do for a long time, plus Power BI desktop, and in the near future, Azure Data Factory. We'll have a common code base, all .NET, very efficient, much better than the code we were using before, which was a Microsoft Power BI connector for all those consumers over an IBM client that wasn't managed. So again, you can imagine the kind of performance improvements and much easier to find problems and trace problems and fix things. Similarly, we support Informix. Same concept. It's actually the same code that we have for DB2 and Informix, same functionality. We simply expose it as a separate BizTalk adapter and a separate namespace for the .NET provider and a separate named connector for Power BI and a separate named connector for Logic Apps. I wanted to give you a quick demonstration of the DB2 client. We've made some improvements to the existing DB2 BizTalk adapter based on what we learned last year in developing a very sophisticated set of API apps for DB2 and Informix. We took that code and we used that code actually for on-prem BizTalk adapters. It's all brand new BizTalk adapter for DB2.
So we have here actually the new DB2 provider. The DB2 provider is actually also using the polling feature. You can here specify how often you would like to poll the data. You can select, do the select command here where you would like to select your data. You can do an update command for each data you've selected under the cursor to delete it, to update it. And you can also, if there is data in it, do the polling. If there's no data in it, don't try even the polling. So here I have a sample in my DB2 table. Here's my DB2 table, which is called steve.integrate 2016. I have here somewhere my SQL command, which is here. I'm running my SQL command to show you what's inside my table. Inside my table, there's nothing. So my table is actually empty. What I'm doing now is I'm doing an insert on my table, putting some data in, and we will gather this data in SQL in BizTalk and bring it to MQ. So I'm do a polling in DB2, and I put the content inside an MQ. So I'm running my SQL again to see if the data is inside. Not debug. Okay, everything here is Eclipse, so it's slow. Okay, there is hello from IBM DB2. I'm going to my receive location and send port. I'm activating my send port so that I can put the data inside an MQ. I'm activating receive location here. Receive location is on. I'm going quickly here to see from DB2, this is this one here, to see if my content is arriving. So it should arrive soon. Hope so. If my receive location.
So the last couple of events, I showed you the Informix BizTalk adapter. I just want you to know that it's still pre-release, but we have 6 rapid deployment sites, of which 3 are in production. So one of them will be in production for 2 years now. The important thing about the BizTalk adapter for Informix, we've swapped out with an entirely new adapter now. So in CTP1 and moving forward, it's a much more capable adapter than it was previously. And hopefully I can keep my rapid deployment sites happy as we switch them over to the new code base without any problems with the production deployments.
Okay, perhaps I read through restart the hosting.
The advantage of the rapid deployment program, again, of course, is that you get direct contact to the account team, or excuse me, to the Microsoft team in Redmond. We're supporting you as well. So although we have field support people that can get involved if you need it, especially if you're permission critical, you come right into Redmond. So all the feedback, all the support, all the fixes, and we're quite adept at getting changes out daily as needed to get you through the test phase and into production.
So it's very slow because of everything on the box, but it's still slow. Yeah, the MQ server is still slow on the box. But the message should be gathered in the DB2 and put it in SQL, in MQ.
The demos worked much better out here in the break room.
Yeah.
Sitting down, having some cookies, some coffee, people coming by to say hi. Yeah. Everything ran fast, it all worked.
That's why you have your other demo.
I do, I have another demo.
Power BI.
Out of the way, we're actually over time
We have
now,
a lot of demos,
so we're not going to cover the slides much, that's for sure. We're gonna get back on track.
We have a Power BI demo,
so
which is quite cool.
we're 2 minutes over, I apologize, so we'll be real quick. One thing I want to mention is that we do things in both directions, okay? We can send and receive virtually everything we own. And one of the things that we introduced in our last release the message now, right. That's very interesting is the ability for any DB2 client, like a Java client running in Linux with an Apache website, connecting to SQL Server as if it were DB2. It's like a little gateway code. It's part of the BizTalk license, part of the HIS package. And it's a great thing to do for a long-term phase migration. It's just also a nice way to, well, that's basically what it's for, workload migration from DB2 to SQL. Very cool technology, all .NET. And that's how we're able to do a new .NET client for DB2 as we'd already done the server. Transaction integrator, very sophisticated. There's a BizTalk adapter for host apps, very popular. This technology stayed fairly well the same between 2013 and 2016, a few improvements here and there. Host initiated side, again, the ability to have a CICS client program call into Windows Server. We're seeing this used quite a bit, more than we thought. We're working with one of the 3 major credit bureaus in the United States to allow customers that request a credit check from their CICS region to the CICS region in the credit bureau to bypass the mainframe and to migrate off the mainframe. So instead of the 2 CICS regions connected via SNA protocols, used to be like a SDLC lease line connection or a dial-up SDLC connection, now we're using our gateway in between, and then for certain customers, they're pulling out the mainframe entirely and putting in a .NET program. So really cool technology, transaction integrator, host initiated, again, for phase migrations. So as John mentioned, yeah, we got all the new platforms. The only difference here is that for us, the new platforms also mean picking up all the new IBM platforms, right? Because we're connectors and gateways, HIS. And so we're picking up all the new IBM platforms. We have all these in-house in our Redmond lab. We're a commercial mainframe customer and mid-range customer. We get great support from IBM as well. And then on the Microsoft side, the only difference there between HS and BizTalk is we sometimes will support more versions of like BizTalk and SQL and Visual Studio, just because of the nature of our quick-moving enterprise customers. That's sarcasm for those of you that haven't been in England long enough. New and improved for HIS, CDP1, CDP2, all the stuff we talked about. CDP2, we actually have a new installation program and configuration program. It replaces what we had since 2004, what's common with BizTalk, so now it's different for HIS. It's more capable, easier to patch, easier to extend it when IBM has some new capabilities or we have a new version of Visual Studio coming out after we ship HIS. And it'll have PowerShell. So really good migration, excellent in-place upgrade for 2010 and 2013 to 2016. Roadmap, HIS, call me if you have any issues, any questions. You get direct support from the product team during the pre-release cycle. Power BI connectors I mentioned. That's for Power BI Desktop, Azure Data Factory, Excel, Power Pivot, Power Query, and that's the same technology we're using for Logic App connectors. And then we also put a free copy of our unmanaged DB2 client, an OLED provider, in the SQL Server box in the web feature pack. John mentioned the feeder list. DB2 and MQ, they'll be there for day one for Logic Apps. Following that, depends upon how things go inside the dev team and how we move people around to make these dates and how that might impact the BizTalk HIS release for our team, my team. We know we need to get kicks. Informix looks like DB2, so it's really just a test thing for us. vSAM and kicks are the same kind of technology. You need a separate metadata library or assembly file that tells us how to do the conversion of the messages, how to convert the data formats. So we're looking at all these things, dribble those out in the upcoming months after we get DB2 and MQ out. Resources, just call Steve and I.
Yeah.
There's some links here as well. We're over by 6 minutes, so we'll get you back on track for lunch. And what I want you to do is we have some more demos.
Yeah.
Just find us. We're both running Surfaces. Steve has a legacy Surface Pro 3, and then I brought my Surface Pro 4. So we'll do demos for you. Yep. But no, seriously, we really appreciate your time today. You're halfway through the conference, so start cherishing every moment that's left. Yeah. And we hope we have a chance to chit-chat with more of you over the next day and a half. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.